Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Novel Nana. I'm Bex. Here on this channel I talk about mostly things that are writerly related. So if that interests you, consider subscribing. Today's video is a collaboration with Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. So we had a collab, which we are calling the Fairytale Flip. And that is because we are both writing a short story based on a fairy tale and then flipping it. So that is what the video is today, and I will be reading it. It will take approximately, I think it's like 10 or 11 minutes. So anyway, hopefully I can read it as quickly as I can. Sorry about my voice. I did get a new mic, so hopefully that will help with the voice going in and out, but I can't really do much. I have a bit of a chest cold, so. But anyway, I'm going to try to read it for you, and my fairy tale is Rapunzel, so I am flipping it. So since I write in the horror genre, it is going to be a horror tale. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. Okay guys, here we go. Pull it up. Get to the very top. Rapunzel pounded her fist bloody once again against the thick wooden door. The bruises from her earlier attempts had all healed the night she had last heard the footsteps retreat on the other side. The day that she had been locked in. How long now had it been? She'd shouted and cried, but there were no princes to rescue her. No knight in shining armor like she'd read about in the fairy tales. A pretty-faced man had lured her here, but instead of giving in to passion, he had fashioned her prison cell and abandoned her. She had been captured, locked away, just like last time. Why hadn't she seen this coming? She had always trusted handsome men, hoping they would return her love, but they never did. This time, instead of a dirty cellar, it was a high tower that stood in an old castle's crumbled ruins, far away from kingdoms and courts, miles away from civilization. Every night she struggled to sleep. She had fed herself with rodents that dared find themselves in her chamber, but nothing scurried any more but her. After many moons, her hunger had grown insatiable. There was no way out. She was too weak to escape without aid. She could barely stand. She had used most of her energy pacing the damp, hard floor, trying to come up with a plan. The other burst of energy she had beaten out on the door. She had to try again. Rapunzel gathered what was left of her strength and stood. She paced once more over the cold stone slabs under her bare feet. The coldness made her body ache. It had been a month since her captor had left her here, with nothing more than a pail of water and a single loaf of bread. Maybe it had been longer. She had not eaten in days, and she was starving. She hated being treated like the animal she was. She admittedly looked like one, filthy head to toe, hair matted in a tangled mess with straws of hay strewn through it. The smell from not bathing was strong, but was nothing compared to the other pungent odors in the room. She sat among small, rotting corpses of woodland creatures, tiny skeletons that reminded her how close she was to becoming one herself. Sitting on the rock sill of the high tower window, she searched the trees, scowling. Where was a wayward crow? A finch? Any bird would do. Her growling stomach agreed. She began to braid her long locks. Boredom and hopelessness kept her from doing much else. Just a bit further than her eyesight allowed, there was a man on horseback approaching the winding road. He would pass directly by the overgrown path and vine-covered trees that hid her tower cell from the rest of the world. She frowned at her thick wisp of hair. They had lost their luminous shade and were void of all shine and splendor. She considered flinging herself out of the arched opening of her prison when she caught a glimpse of the man on horseback. She leaned out and shouted, waving her bony arms frantically in desperation. "Help! Help me, please!" The rider heard her cries and spurred his horse onward. He looked upward at the maiden in the window. She pleaded with him to help her escape. He tugged at vines, but couldn't get them to her. She told him that she had a plan, and she drew him in like a fly to her web. She would eat well tonight. Rapunzel lowered her hair and beckoned him to climb up. She said that he would be able to break down the door and free her from her prison. He looked strong enough. She coaxed him as he climbed, told him of the spiral stone staircase that would lead them to freedom once he busted down the door. He agreed that he would try with all of his might as he climbed up the full length of her plaited golden rope. The rider finally was approaching the window of the tower as he grabbed a higher hold of her golden strands. She hoisted him up and over the stone sill, but before his feet hit the floor, her hair constricted and twisted, choking the life from his body. Her fingernails stretched into talons and secured him in place as she widened her mouth over his neck. Her fangs sprang forth and sank deep into his flesh. She squeezed and stole his nutrients and drank the remnants of his soul. All that were left were pieces of fleshy bits, but they were dried out like jerky. Still she hungered. She devoured him after only a day and a half. She tossed his bones toward the pile of her smaller food sources, finally satisfied. She slept through the night, without pangs of starvation to keep her awake and suffering. She woke replenished, feeling stronger than she had in a long time. Now she would play the waiting game again. It was tiresome and risky, but what choice did she have? She had no tools, no actual rope, and no means of escape. She could jump and die, splatter herself on the rocks below, and maybe she would, if no one came when her hunger returned. She certainly had thought about it before. This wasn't any way to live. Rapunzel drank in the sunlight as day dawned into her dark and dank prison. Beneath the window, she spied something shiny, a glimpse of silver. Her eyes widened as she realized what it was and what it meant. She nearly salivated as she walked toward the metal that sparkled in the sun. A small sword, still sheathed and attached by a leather strap to the rider's pants, that lay in a shredded heap. She picked it up. She brought the blade to her golden locks, still braided, and made the cut. She tied and anchored her severed strands to the iron handle on the door. She pulled to make sure it was secure. She threw her long braid out the window and climbed down to the ground. There she found the man's horse tied to a tree. She stood pondering, wiggling her toes against soft green moss and stroking the auburn mane of the beautiful creature with huge black eyes. She weighed options carefully and considerately before deciding that she would free the animal. She could have ravished him and fed for days, but she had more grand plans than that in mind. Ones that would keep her full for the rest of her life. Plans that would take her all over the world. How she longed to travel and to be free to roam and not be caged in a stifling tower of stone. Those days for her were over. Never again would she trust men. If she needed shelter or companionship, she would look for a mother figure next time, and maybe that someone would help her and not find her repulsive. Maybe a woman would be kind and sympathetic to her plight and not see Rapunzel for the monster that she was. She could hope. She walked along the path, and it wasn't long until she heard a rushing stream. She followed the sound until she at last found the brook. She stepped over smooth pebbles and waded into the cold water. She drank and then bathed before returning to the horse. She'd left the dingy, blood-stained dress on the banks. She'd find clothes soon enough when her appetite returned. Rapunzel grabbed the saddle horn, hoisted herself upon the beast. She breathed in deeply the fragrant, fresh air. How nice to smell the blossoms of lavender and rose. Much better than the overwhelming stench of decayed and rotting carcasses. She wiped a drop of blood from her mouth. She felt stronger now, and she knew she was. Her strength and beauty had returned. The proof was in her hair. It was growing rapidly before her eyes. Inch by inch, it waved and curved over her shoulders first. Then it stretched and coiled over her breast. Smooth, silky hair moved softly as it winded past her ribs, then her waist. It tickled as it made its way down her back and over her thighs, and continued, growing, flowing, vibrant, living golden strands of strength and beauty. It would be down to her ankles soon, covering her body like a warm winter cloak. She watched her hair grow out longer, passing her calves, moving down her legs, stronger and more luxurious than before. Like a baby entering the world, she cried out, happily, to be free from confinement. Underneath her lovely locks, naked, she would ride. It was fitting, for she felt reborn and new. She whispered, "Giddy up," and galloped to the next kingdom, looking forward to a mighty, mighty feast. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope that this recording wasn't too bad. I'm so sorry I stumbled through some of the words. But anyway, if you like this retelling, this fairy tale flip, please be sure to give me a like. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite part was, if you liked it. And be sure to click the link in the description box for Nia's video. And I guess that's it, guys. I will talk to you next time. Remember to like and subscribe. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.